What is going on, everyone? I hope you were all having a fantastic day. So I think most of us would agree that having a good credit score can lead to some serious benefits for your financial life. But unfortunately, it can take a pretty long time to build up that great credit score. So today I want to take that cookie cutter advice that we always hear, like pay off your cards on time and use credit responsibly, and throw it out the window, and talk about some legitimate ways that you can make some big changes to your credit score, like 200 points or more in just a few weeks in some cases. So if you want to quickly increase your credit score and better your financial future, then let's jump right into it. Alright, so first of all, this should probably go without saying, but obviously making huge increases to your personal credit score is going to depend heavily on where you are currently at in your financial situation. If you have no credit history at all, then getting a score of 800 or more in a matter of weeks is not exactly realistic. However, if you either have poor credit history or maybe even if you have no credit history at all, there are some pretty easy steps that you can take to start seeing some really big improvements in a short period of time. So the first and easiest thing to do to boost your credit score or start building credit history, especially if you are a younger individual and can't necessarily get a credit card on your own, is actually becoming an authorized user on someone else's account who has good credit. Now, like I said, this is a great strategy for teenagers specifically who can't get their own credit card, but this can also be a good strategy if there is someone in your life who has really great credit and is comfortable with having you as an authorized user on their account. And remember, this doesn't have to be a family member necessarily. It can be a friend or someone in your life who, again, is comfortable with you being an authorized user on their account and is willing to help you build your credit score by using their good credit. So essentially, the way this works is you are piggybacking off of the good credit of someone else, and in some cases, this can boost your score by 150 points or more in less than a month just by becoming an authorized user on that individual's account who has good credit history. Now, I do feel it's important to mention that sometimes if you do go to apply for a loan and the lender really does their research, they are able to see that you may have built your credit history by being an authorized user rather than having those accounts and responsibilities on your own. And in some cases, they may decline you because of that. However, had you not even bothered trying this technique in the first place, then you probably would have been denied by that lender anyways, so really you have nothing to lose. And if you're able to, I do recommend that you do get your own line of credit at some point, even if that is a secured credit card, because while being an authorized user on someone else's account might make those big changes in the short term, eventually you will want to build up that credit report and credit history on your own, and everyone has to start somewhere. Okay, but moving on from there, the second way to rapidly increase your credit score, and probably the technique that will have the biggest impact in some situations, is actually combing through your current credit report and disputing any mistakes that you may find with the credit bureaus. Now, I know this might sound like a lot of work and a long shot, but first of all, you'd be surprised how many times people actually have mistakes on their credit reports and never actually realize it because they don't bother taking the time to comb through that report and make sure that everything looks good. Sometimes there can be entire accounts that aren't even yours, late payments that weren't actually late, and a number of other huge issues that can substantially impact your credit score. So by contacting the credit bureau and having those things removed, you are basically erasing those negative marks from history, and that can have a huge impact on your credit score in a very short period of time. Now again, I know this might sound like a lot of work, but you can actually just do a search online for a fillable letter template that you can fill out with your information and then send that to the credit bureau, and according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the creditor that you submit your claim with is obligated to investigate your claim, and in most cases, they will respond within a matter of weeks. Sometimes you might not find anything wrong in the report, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I highly recommend that you pool your credit report, which remember you're able to do 3 times per year, once with each of the 3 major credit bureaus, and comb through it and make sure that everything looks right, and if there is any mistake, then definitely dispute that because that can drastically increase your credit score in a short period of time. Now, that brings us to the third way to boost your credit score, or should I say not pull your credit score down, especially if you're planning on applying for a loan in the near future, and that would be avoiding what's called a hard pull on your credit. hard pulls or hard inquiries do not typically have a huge impact on your credit score in the long term. However, as you may know, they can have short-term impacts on those scores. So if you are planning on applying for a mortgage, a car loan, or some other line of credit in the near future, like the next few months, then you definitely want to avoid having those hard pulls, meaning that's avoiding things like applying for another type of credit, opening a new credit card, or really anything that will result in a hard pull on your credit report. In some cases, these hard pulls can actually decrease your score immediately by 20 points or more, and while again, in the short term it is just a decline, you don't want to have that on your report if you are going to apply for a mortgage, for example, because that can impact the interest rate that you get on that mortgage, and that could end up costing you thousands and thousands of dollars in the long term. Now, the fourth way to drastically increase your credit score in just a few weeks, which does fall under that cookie cutter advice category sometimes, but that would be keeping your credit utilization as low as possible. Now again, I know this is the advice that I and many others give all the time, but the reason that I include it on this particular list is because other than your on-time payment history, your credit utilization has the biggest impact on your credit score. Usually you'll hear that you should keep your credit utilization below 30%, meaning if you have $1,000 of credit available to you, then you should not spend more than $300 on that particular line of credit. But in my opinion, that's actually not really great advice, and I believe that you should always keep your credit utilization below 10%. And in my case, I actually try to keep my credit utilization at 0%. Now, that doesn't mean that I have credit cards and that I never spend anything on them, because I definitely use them. But what this does mean is I actually pay them off before my statement arrives at the end of each month, so that way I'm not only getting those cashback rewards and other benefits and building my credit score, but my utilization stays at 0%, which is really good for my score as well. And I will just say right now that the belief that you should always be carrying a balance on your card because the creditors like to see that is absolutely a myth and is not true, so please don't do that. Pay off your accounts, whether that be your regular bills, your credit card, your mortgage, or really any other account, on time, every time, in full, without fail, and your credit score will go through the roof in no time. Now, on that note, the fifth and final way that you can increase your credit score significantly without actually having to do anything is putting all of your accounts on Autopay. Like I mentioned earlier, your on-time payment history is the most important factor in calculating your credit score. And while we all know that that definitely falls into the cookie cutter advice category, setting all of your accounts on Autopay can actually be a fantastic way to make sure that your payment history is perfect across the board and that you never ever have to worry about missing a payment at all. And in a lot of cases, lenders will even offer discounted rates or other promotional benefits for setting your account on Autopay. Plus, of course, the beauty of this is that everything is automated, you don't have to worry about it at all, and you can simply focus on your income and making sure that you are allocating those funds as wisely as possible, knowing that your credit score is going through the roof in the background on its own. So if I were you, I would specifically start with the first two tips on this list, which is becoming an authorized user, especially if you have poor credit history or no credit history, or combing through your current credit report and disputing any mistakes that you may find with the credit bureaus, because those two methods are definitely the easiest and will be the most effective as far as making those huge changes to your credit score in a short period of time. Now, like I mentioned earlier, getting to the actual number of an 800 is going to depend on where you are currently at, but it is very possible that you might have a score in the 600s or maybe even lower right now, and maybe there's a huge mistake on your credit report that you don't even know about. So by getting that removed, you could be over 800 before you know it. So hopefully you got some value out of this content, and if you did, I would love to know which of these tips you were implementing in your financial life to increase your credit score immediately. If you did get value out of this content and you want to help support me, the easiest way to do that is actually checking out some of my favorite financial tools down in the description below and getting some free money in the process, and of course hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel for more content like this in the future. As always, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.